Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 authors I've never read from. So this kind of was born from the idea that I have not been reading a lot of new releases the past few years. There's a lot of books and authors that I have missed out on. And so this year I've decided that I'm going to try to work on like my list or backlog of books and authors that I've not read from yet. So I thought it would be fun to put together a list of 10 of those authors with the hope that then by the end of the year I will have read something from them. That's the plan anyways, that's the hope. I guess we'll see. So the first author on the list is Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo is a pretty big author for BookTube specifically. Six of Crows, King of Scars is another one that she has. She just came out with Ninth House. There's a lot of different books here, a lot of different stories that she's writing and talking about. And I just have never had a chance to really sit down and actually read something from her. So I thought she definitely has to be on my list for this year. The next one is Essay Chakraborty. I have had this book since it came out and I have still yet to read it. The only thing I can say in my defense is that it did come out right when I was in the middle of my graduate school, so I really didn't have time to read anything that wasn't, required. I'm gonna say that counts, although in fairness, I could say that about almost every book on this list. So the next author is actually going to be Hobb. So I have both the Farseer trilogy and the Live Ship Traders. Wait, actually. And I do have the dragon ones too, actually, now that I think about it. Because Hobb is often talked about in a lot of fantasy circles as like one of the authors to read from. I did try to read this book in 2020, but I just was not into it. I wasn't really, it was at the period where I was kind of starting a reading slump, and so trying to start a new fantasy series was just a little bit too intensive for me. So I do want to give her another try because I have heard great things about Hobb's writing. I've heard great things about this entire series and trilogies and the whole world that she has built. So I do really want to give that a try. The next author is Silvia Moreno Garcia. They've written Gods of Jade and Shadow and also Mexican Gothic, and I haven't read either of them, so I really wish I had better excuses, and I was busy, but I was busy. So that's why I'm making this list, guys. That's why I'm making it now, and I'm just gonna keep working through it. So the next author is gonna be Naomi Novik, who has written The Uprooted and Spinning Silver, and also the Téméraire series, which is the kind of Napoleonic Wars with dragons. I will be honest and say I'm not sure which book and or series I'm going to read, or I don't want to say read, that's way too much on my plate. I will start. It will definitely be one of these two books, but I do want to give her a try because I have heard like a lot of really good things, especially about her Téméraire series. I just know that series in particular is, I think it's like 8 books or something like that, maybe it's 10, but she's on the list. Okay, so the next author is going to be one that I feel like everyone has read to some extent, and that is Taylor Jenkins Reid. They've written both Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Do you think the next book is going to be 8? Something 8? Anyways, I have not read either of these. I did start listening to the audiobook of this book, was it last year maybe? And I remember liking the audiobook, and then I got busy. Shock of shocks, right? That I got busy and just like couldn't read anymore. And The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is a book that has been on my TBR almost since it came out. I know that there's bisexual representation in this book, so I personally put it on my list immediately. And then I just everyone. What is it? Where does it go? The next one's a slightly different category, and that's Riley Sager. They write a lot of thriller type books, and specifically this one, and I want to say the other one, Lock Every Door. I think those two have a slightly more gothic feel to it, and I love gothic fiction. I am slightly sad that I never got to read this book or any of their other works, which, again, I really only have myself to blame that I never have. Yeah, so I just, like, really the only reason I haven't really read from Riley Sager is just purely the timing of it. Is every time I've sat down to read something by them, I just run out of time, or I'm not really in the mood for a thriller. It's just kind of how that happens. Does that happen to you guys, where when you, like, sit down to actually read something you're excited to, you just are like, oh wait, actually not as excited anymore? I don't know. It happens to me a lot. Or the next author I want to read from is Andrzej Sapkowski, which is the author of the Witcher series. I really love The Witcher. I have played the video game, and I fell in love with Geralt and Ciri specifically. I love her. She is my daughter, and I want to protect her from everything. And so I do want to make progress in this series this year. I say make progress like I've actually started it. I haven't. I did put a bookmark in the last wish because I'm just making progress slowly but surely. So Blood of the Elves is technically the first book in the 5-book series that is Geralt and Ciri sort of story, but there are 2 short story collections that take place chronologically before the events of Blood of the Elves, so I am going to start with those 2 books. The first of those is The Last Wish, which sort of introduces us to Geralt, the Witcher, and the world a little bit. So I am really interested to see how the short story collection feels as it goes, because it's a really interesting concept to have a collection of short stories following a specific character through different points in his own timeline and his own life, leading up to the main events of the first book. So the next author on my list, V.E. Schwab. Now, I've had The Darker Shade of Magic for many, many years, and I tried to read it last year, but I could not get into this book, really. I feel like the concept is really interesting, but I didn't really care a lot about the characters. I honestly don't even remember their names. That's how little I cared about the characters at the time. And so I kind of put it down, and then I just, like, never picked it back up, unfortunately. And so I'm debating whether I want to try this book series again, or if I just want to go straight to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I have heard really good things about. My fear is if I jump right to this one, that I'm never going to be able to go back and read anything else by her, because I feel like if you read things by authors, if you kind of read backwards in an author's bibliography, you kind of can see the progression, or actually the regression of their writing and their writing skills and things like that. And so sometimes it's a lot harder to read books that were written before, because it's a lot different writing styles. It's a very different voice than what we have here. But either way, V.E. Schwab's on the list. So the last author that is on my list is going to be Samantha Shannon, which this is The Bone Season. I know a lot of people love The Bone Season, but I actually would want to try to tackle The Priory of the Orange Tree, which yep, that's here. But I have heard just fantastic things about this book in particular, and so I do think I'm going to try to tackle this book this year. Maybe I'll make it like a reading diary or something like that to keep myself accountable. I have heard really great things about Samantha Shannon. I've heard that she is just a fantastic writer, and I really am excited to dig into her. But that then concludes my list of authors that I'm going to be reading from this year. Let me know in the comments below, how upset are you that I haven't read some of these authors? Should I move some of them up or down the list? Is there any book or author that you think I need to get to right now? Are there any authors you disagree that they should even be on this list? I'm very curious. I think reading is a really subjective sort of thing to do, and some people love things, some people hate those same things, and it's really interesting to see how everyone's feelings kind of fall into place, if you will. I am really curious to see how I feel about these authors in particular. I'm also incredibly curious how this is going to play out at the end of the year. Am I going to have read from any of these authors? I'm gonna hope so. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna have read from them. But what are the stakes? Like, how much am I willing to stake on this claim here? Okay, I'm gonna say I'm gonna have read from at least 4. I feel like 4 is a good number. I'm gonna say 4. Ideally, I'll have read from all of them, but you know, who knows? There's a very good chance that I won't read from any of them. So, fingers crossed, I guess. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.